Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Sample and I'm not only the MC today, but I am one of the moderators for one of these serious industry problems that we're really working on. And to introduce what we're doing here, this is all about design handoff. And first I want to thank our sponsors, the MCAA. Thanks to Sean McGuire and the team over there for really helping trade contractors and service contractors move forward in these massive problems that we're dealing with as we change as an industry. So what our objective was is how might we improve the handoff of system, component, and part information from design to downstream stakeholders in ways that enable multiple systems to receive different pieces of information from the same design document so that fabricators and installers and operators can rely on validated design data to improve their operations. We also added in the service contractor because in many respects the trade contractor and the service contractor are the same, but in a lot of cases they are not anymore. So how does that play in and impact it? What was interesting for me this year was I got to do this last year and we've redone it. So what we talked about is we started coming from the owner and the owners and we mapped out where this data goes, but we had to make a decision, much to like number one had to make a decision. We went with design, bid, build, contract structure because we determined, at least as a group, that it was the most majority, but also the basic and current state workflow. Not to jump to the future state workflow, but that it defined it and did it well. So what we determined was there's the packages that need to move. They currently move from the owner through to the architect of record and the engineer of record. But this was interesting, and our team, Tim, brought this year. What you will see located out that we never had before is where the contracts lie and who they're between. So the red lines are the contractual relationships between these people, which we determined actually changes the way that the data flows in the end and could be a barrier to that data flowing. And what you'll see is that the data flows through into our architect of record, to the engineer of record, back to the architect of record, and then downstream to our general contractors. Our general contractors are handing in the middle. We also determined that the design workflow and the closeout workflow follow such a similar path that we mapped it as a single stream with it. And again, not to get to our future state, but that we believe will play a big role into the future. General contractor does play this role here, and I'll use Nichole called out that this is the spot where they all say, just get rid of this and we'd be fine. However, there it was highly disagreed with.
Easier said than done.
And then how the GC actually works with the trade contractor. The trade contractor is procuring information from the distributor that's actually procuring information from the manufacturer and how that workflow works. And that later on, our service contractor, if they are separate from our trade contractor, is actually accessing similar information. Not necessarily the same distributor is what we wanted to call out here, but that it is going to a distributor, it's going to a manufacturer, and that can have impact on warranty, whether that's manufacturer, subcontractor guaranteed, or their project closeout and handover for maintenance. We also brought in a new role here of the FM. We're assuming here that this is a builder, an owner that's actually going to operate that facility as well. That was another assumption that we made here. That could very well change down the road, which could make this more complex. It was a great time with the team this morning, getting caught up on where we were from last year, really bringing in some new ideas and some new stakeholders around contracts and the other things that might be holding this back. I really think at year two, we have an opportunity to break through and get to where we want to get to. So I look forward to getting into that future state.
All right, Connor is here, our second substitute team lead.
I was the interim team lead working with Jeff Sample. The general conclusion that we came to was just like our drawings went from paper to models, there's no reason that specifications can't go from words that are on text documents to full data deliverables that really help that process move. When we first got together this afternoon, we were like, you know what? The objective statement's great. We probably don't need to change it. Then 10 minutes later, we just changed everything. So we started with a new how might we, and we said, how might we integrate standard parameters that create collaborative design deliverables in ways that improve the handoff of system component and part information from design to downstream stakeholders so that designers, fabricators, installers, and operators can rely on validated design data to improve their operations. Now, the major change that we really had in here is this "how might we" statement, because it got a lot more specific. It was a little broader before, and instead of just having a broad statement like "how might we," do something simple, we went to something specific, which is integrating standard parameters for these design deliverables. And I'll explain what we mean by that with my chart over here. So the original pain points that we had when we were looking at this was that the specifications were causing downstream issues in the supply line. The first point that we had an issue is when it went from a designer to a general contractor. The general contractor had a lot of pain just trying to figure out in the specifications what it is that they were supposed to submit. And they spend a lot of time doing that. In fact, there are now programs that are made to try and help people do that, like Pipe. And it's because they are literally taking text documents and reading them, hundreds of pages, to try and find information that in all reality is already known. But it takes them a whole lot of time to do this. And then after they're done, they send this downstream to the product manufacturers and the distributors and try and get information about actually getting their materials ordered. Now, the pain point down here is that it's taken so long to get through this process that by the time they are asking, a lot of those materials are no longer available or have long lead times. And if only this group knew sooner, well, then maybe that wouldn't be an issue. So the two issues came down to they need to know what they are supposed to deliver sooner, and the general contractors and trade contractors, well, they need to spend less time trying to figure out from the specifications what it is that they're supposed to order. Those were the two major pain points. The thing that we kind of came up with was, well, what if we had some sort of standard parameters, some sort of data behind the specifications so that they weren't just text documents that you read? Because in that case, what happens is everybody can get that information, especially if there's some sort of a system here, and this is the future ad, is a system here where that standard information about the specifications, about the submittals, is shared with all of these partners, where that data can actually be shared well in advance of even a contract being issued, so that everybody can start getting the information they need a little bit sooner and a little bit more organized. There really is no reason why a set of specifications can't tell a contractor exactly what they're supposed to submit. And the whole idea is that by creating some sort of way of taking it away from just text documents into some sort of standardized data that is deliverable, that we can start to improve those communications to lessen that pain. So, and I'm going to flip here. When we looked at this and we said, what's our current state? The things that we're gonna remove, we want to remove the creation of just that pure text-based specification. We want to take that out. We want to remove the coordination of specs and drawings. I'll get to that in a second because there's like two future states. And then there's the removal of the submittal registry process, where we're going to minimize what that takes. All right? And future state activities added are that specs are created in systems that support these kind of data deliverables, not just Word and PDF, and that downstream stakeholders are able to interface with that data that's providing those parameters that they need upstream. The benefits being faster submittal registry creation, supply chain improvement, faster spec creation, and informed intent, better decision making, and decision vision. Now, I said we kind of had two future states. Most of what I showed there was, okay, the specs have this data, it goes downstream, everybody gets it, everybody gets things a little bit faster. But then there's the idea that once these parameters exist, well, you can do more with them. You can start to build them into your BIM. And then that changes things because maybe your model, because there are very specific parameters in your model, can generate your specifications. And then you don't need to do things like coordinate your specs and drawings, because just like a parametric drawing, when you make your door here, it changes the door everywhere. If you're changing that parameter on your object that's associated with your specs, it's going to change that too. And now those discrepancies cease to exist. These are the type of things that can happen if we start to make better specifications that have some intelligence behind them and not just simple Word or text documents. And I think that's it.
Drop that mic, baby. Drop that mic. Great job.
You talked about, advance notice to the distributors and suppliers. That's good with the what they are going to supply, but how about the how many? That's not in the spec. So how do you envision combining that spec data with the quantities that are eventually going to that bill of material?
I mean, I can only theorize, right?
Yeah.
But if it is combined with some sort of project information, you might get a little bit about that. Like, it could be something as simple as, there's going to be a 50,000 square foot, MOB being built in this city, and they can take some guesses as to what's going to be included, or if that type of project information to go along with it, and that might help them make some guesses, because that might be included. Might not just be what's in the specs, but you also learn about what type of project it is. What's the square footage of that project, and use that to make some decisions.
Awesome. Well done, Team 3. Round of applause. Thank you.